welcome back to my channel. I am here with my July plan with me. So as usual, I will be giving you guys a look at how June went and then how I'm going to be setting up July, followed by the time lapse. And yeah, I'm actually really excited about this month because as you guys can see, rather than pens, I actually have my watercolor palette. So I do have other watercolors, but this is one that I got so that if I ever bought two watercolors, I could put them in here. And so I decided that I wanted to try doing a watercolor monthly setup for this month. So I'll be using some combination of these three colors, so the neutral tint, perylene green, and terra verde. We'll see how it goes once I actually set it up, but I like how like muted they look, and you guys will see once I show you my pre-planning page. So let's get started. So here we have June, and you're gonna notice that my setup is very similar to what it was last month, and it's going to be pretty similar again this month. So once again, I have my quote and my intro page, followed by my monthly and upcoming months. You'll see I haven't yet migrated to July because I'm currently setting it up, so all of these are still considered as open tasks. What I do is I actually will check them off or cross them off once I've migrated them onto the next month's monthly calendar. I just haven't done that yet since that's what we're going to do today. Then I've got my goals. I have made some headway, not as much as I would like, but I have made some headway. We'll see how much I get done in this last week. We'll see. If not, I'll just migrate them. And then I've got my reading goals, which is probably my biggest disappointment this month. Yeah, I just have been catching up on other things, and so I have been reading. I've actually been working on this book in French. I've been reading a couple of pages every single night. However, I haven't finished it, and I haven't finished any other books either, so oh well. It is what it is. Then tracking money goals and savings. So I am going to kind of play around with my tracking a little bit because of how I'm now doing my weeklies. I'll show you guys on the weekly first and then kind of explain. So this is that new weekly that I've been doing, the daily weekly hybrid, and I think I'm going to keep using this throughout the summer because it gives me enough space to keep track of all of my tasks, just like general tasks, but also on a daily level, and I don't have to worry about doing a new daily every day. And it also gives me the space to have a focus section and a weekly tracking log. So what I'm going to do is, since I have this weekly tracking log, I'm going to take language stuff off of my monthly tracker and use that for other things because I don't really need the redundancy there, since once I fill it out in here, I also fill it into my language journal. So these are my goals, the things I want to do, and then in the language journal, it's the things that I actually do. So they might not be the same, which is why I do have them in both places. So you'll see here we have the first week of June, second week of June, third week of June. That's where we are this week. I'm currently filming on the 23rd in order to hopefully get this up tomorrow on the 24th. And yeah, I haven't had too many migrated tasks this week. If we're being honest, that's because I knew once I kind of saw how my schedule was going, I knew that I wasn't going to have a lot of time because I was at school a lot more than I thought I would be initially. So I have more tasks down here that haven't actually happened, and you'll notice I have my focus section for the week that's looking kind of sad. I've only done two things. Yeah, I'll know better for next week. I'm going to drop it back down, I think, to 3 focus things, at least until I'm officially done with school. Just, yeah, I had less time than I thought I would. But overall, this daily weekly hybrid has been going really well. I do really like the layout of it, and I think I'm going to keep doing this for a while. So I do have next week already set up, and I actually, because I was planning to do a watercolor setup for July, I decided to go ahead and try doing a watercolor setup for a weekly because I'd like to do my weeklies in July also as watercolor, and I just really want to play around with it. So these are some watercolors I have in my main palette of 10 different colors, and then I've got some stickers on here from STICKII Club, and you'll notice that I've actually started adding in stickers on each week. I've been getting the STICKII Club pack and I really like it, and I haven't been using all of the space on my weekly, so I decided to go ahead and just throw a little bit of decoration in there. I haven't done it in a while, so why not change it up a bit? So that is the end of June, honestly. I didn't have any other collections for June. I have open collections previously, but yeah, I didn't really, because it was the end of the school year, I had a lot going on with that, so I didn't really have any need to do other collections. I think that's going to change in July because I'm getting into summer, I'm going to have a trip coming up and all that kind of stuff. But that, honestly, that is June. So let's see. That was from, if we count my intro page, so page 168 to 181, that's what, like 12 pages, 13 pages, something like that. So June was really, really short. Feels weird, but you know what? It is what it is. So next up, I'm just going to directly flip the page and we're going to do July. So let me show you in my pre-planning what I'm planning on doing for July. So in here, oops. Okay, so you'll see I started tallying for the people who were voting for my different monthly colors before I decided that I was going to do watercolor, and so I had a color palette that I wanted to use for that. Purple would have won, however. It would have won. I had so many people. I actually stopped counting after a while, basically once I decided on my colors, and I had people who were still sending me in, so I feel like I need to do purple one month, but it's just not going to be this month because I have, these are the three colors that I will be using. So it's that neutral tint, the polyring green, and the terra verde. So I love how like muted they are, but still pretty vibrant for these two. So these are the three colors. I'm going to do some combination thereof. We'll see how it goes. And then my setup, I am keeping the same setup in general. So I am going to do a quote in English this time, and it's not even going to be a full quote. It's going to be "School's out for the summer" because it's the start of the summer holidays. And then the rest of it is going to be in Korean the way I have been doing it. So I'll have my month header on the second page here. I'll have my monthly and upcoming month on the third and goals on the fourth, followed by reading and tracking. So I am going to, on my reading tracker, I'm going to stop doing the start and end date. So let me flip back to one that I actually did in English to show you. Oops. So somewhere back here. So normally what I do when I have my reading trackers, I have my goal, whether I met the goal, the start date, and the end date. And that's because sometimes if I've just finished a book and it's like the day before and I know I'm going to finish, like, and I start a new book and I know I'll finish it in the next month, I'll sometimes do that. But honestly, I go pretty much by the month. So this start and end is like not necessary at all. So I'm going to drop that and I'm just going to have the goal and how many books I actually read, just to kind of simplify things basically. Oops, so let's go back here. So I'm going to have that, and then I've got a couple of things that I'd like to actually track. I am going to reduce it because I'm moving the language goals off onto my weeklies. And so I'm going to keep this as a pretty like limited number of things that I'm going to track. But as always, I will have more space if during the month I decide I want to add in something else. So that's going to be it. It's a pretty simple setup. I think that this is going to take a while. It might not take that long for you guys because I will time lapse, so you don't actually have to physically watch the paint dry. But because I am doing a watercolor setup, I think it's going to take a little while, a little bit longer to do the setup in general, just because I'll have to wait for the paint to actually dry. But otherwise, it's the same simple setup as normal. And I am also, assuming that I don't forget as I get into filming things, I'm also going to film the first weekly so you can see how I do a watercolor setup for that daily weekly hybrid. So I'm going to time lapse you guys. I'll come back in the end and show you how everything went, and I hope you enjoy. Actually, before I get started, I want to show you, this is my like bucket of brushes. So today I am probably going to be using this. So this is a fine, oops, let me move this. So this is a fine Kuretake, and this is the one that I do if I'm going to do like lettering with watercolors. And then I'm also going to pull out, I'm going to pull out all my water brushes. So I've got I think this is the medium. Oh, there we go. So I have a medium, I think. Pretty sure this is medium. This is an aquash. And then I also have a broad, which is nice for doing like lines and stuff like that. And then I also really like, I got this set, let me pull out all of them so you can see. I got this set of like really fine watercolor brushes. I follow Minnie Smalls. I'll have to check. She is this artist who has this awesome YouTube page, and she did this like, I think it was for Inktober actually, and she did all of these houses in like blacks and whites, and she used this set of really fine, oh, and of course I did not get a very expensive set of them, but she used this set of really fine watercolor brushes, and for the things that I like to do, like lettering and that kind of stuff, and like just doing like weekly and monthly setups, I thought that they would be really useful. So there were 6 altogether, and it goes from like 0, 0, 0 all the way up to 4, and it kind of skips around. You'll see it's like 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, 1, 0, 1, 2, and 4. I don't know why it skipped 3. And so I actually have been using the, I use the 1. I use the 1 to do my spreads, because some of the really, really fine ones for the kinds of lines that I like to draw, it's just, for some reason, it doesn't work as well. So I'm going to pull out one of those, and unfortunately, this is the one that keeps falling off. So you know what? We're actually going to switch, and we're going to do 0. There we go. I'm going to try 0. So I just picked these up on Amazon, and I got a pretty cheap set because I wasn't sure how they were going to work. So as you can see, the quality is of the like construction is not great, but the brushes themselves are pretty nice. So move that out of the way, and back to the time lapse. that is my setup, and I have to say I ended up turning off the camera a couple of times while spreads were drying because it was just going to take way too long. So this definitely, in terms of like a quick setup, for all that it's simple, definitely not fast. So yeah, and actually as I went through, I tried to use less water on the brush so that things would dry faster, which did kind of work a little bit better, but it is definitely a longer setup than I'm used to. So how things went. You'll notice that I had my quote picked out, but I didn't do any sort of like pre-planning layout, and honestly the reason why I did this quote was because I missed doing actual like hand lettering in English, and I felt like I wasn't getting a lot of practice doing that since I've been doing so much in Korean in my bullet journal, so I wanted to have a chance to do that. And of course I decided, you know, haven't done this for a while, let's go ahead and do it with a water brush, which is not my, I'm not as skilled with a water brush as I am with an actual brush pen. So I think it turned out all right, but the spacing is definitely a little bit wonky. Then I have my 2018 July like intro page. So these, like the entire quote and July is actually done in the same watercolor. It's that polyrene green. And then this one is actually the Tierra Verde, however you want to say that. So I love how they're like in the same family, but just a little bit different. Then we have July. So I have not even erased my pencil marks. I'm gonna go ahead and do that later because I wanna make sure that everything is really, really dry before I go in with an eraser. But one of the things that I decided, normally I limit my monthly to 5 rows, no matter what the month actually looks like, which means that sometimes the last week goes back up at the top. And this time I thought, you know, I don't really have a whole lot going on in August, so I'm gonna go ahead and try and see how I like having everything sort of like on the appropriate line, if you will. So I did go ahead and I have the 31st and the 30th and the 31st down at the bottom here, and then I have just my header and then my upcoming stuff for August. And if it turns out that I need more room, what I can just do is create a second column, and I think I'll be fine in terms of space. So see how that goes. And I think so for this and for my goals, I did do the polyring green for everything, and I just really like the variation that you get with that particular color. I think it looks really cool. So I will go back in and fill in my goals later. I'm not sure yet if I'm going to do, because I normally do, whoops, next page. So I normally do like a little swatch of Tombow as my like checkbox basically. So I'm not sure if I'm going to actually do this in watercolor, if I'm just gonna pick a Tombow color and be done with it. We'll see how that goes once I actually sit down to fill in this goal section. Next, I have my reading tracker. So I had a couple of suggestions on my last plan with me. So I did adapt my header here to reflect some of those suggestions. And like I mentioned, I dropped the start and end date. So I just have how many books I want to read. And this actually, well, something was still wet when I closed this, so it smudged a little bit, but I want to read 8 books next month. And then this is going to be for how many books I actually did read by the end of the month. Next up, I have my tracking. So you'll notice I have a very limited number of things that I'm tracking because I will have that language tracker on my weekly. So just have 5 things over here, and then my money goals and how much I've saved. So I did do the box for how much, to write in how much I've saved, but I didn't do the little swatch of color that I normally do. And this is going to be the same as with my goals on the previous page, where I'm not sure if I'll pick a Tombow to do that or if I will actually do that in watercolor with the colors I used for this month. I'll kind of play it by ear once I actually start setting that up. So that was all of my monthly stuff. Honestly, like the spreads themselves are super simple. It just took a while to let things dry, and you'll notice that I was even rushing it a little bit, and I have this like spot of color here and I got a little smudge there. So definitely a little bit longer in terms of that, but I think the look is kind of nice. I'm pleased with how the watercolor looks on the monthly spread. And then the last thing I'm going to show you guys is my weekly. So I didn't fill in everything. I will link a card so that you can see how I do my full daily, weekly hybrid setup, but I just wanted to show you guys sort of the color, what I imagine for the colors for my weeklies next month. And basically I want to do the outline with that darker green, the polyring green, and then I want to do the lighter lines with that tierra verde color, which I think looks really nice. So this was a pretty quick setup, and I have to say that the more that I do this weekly, the faster it is for me to set up. So it is becoming a pretty like good time saver to just have this as my weekly setup. So that is my July plan with me. I hope you guys enjoyed it, and I hope you guys enjoyed seeing my trying to play around with watercolors as I was doing stuff. Doing this was definitely a little bit complicated because normally when I letter, I have a piece of paper under my hand so that I can go over parts that I've already done, but with watercolor I can't because it would smear it way too much. So some bits are a little bit shaky by the time I got to the end of the word because I had to basically like lift my palm up in order to not smudge but still be able to write. Not ideal. I'm not really sure how to get around that, but overall I like how it looks, and I hope you guys had fun watching me do a watercolor setup for July. If you guys have any comments or questions, leave them down below, and I will see you guys in my next video. Bye!